How valuable is wisdom to you? And what is the end results of one receiving or obtaining wisdom from God? In this lesson entitled The Value of Wisdom, we're going to talk about the end results. There are notes for this lesson. I'll leave a link in the description below. I'll leave a link above my head. Click that link, get your notes, your Sunday school books, and your Bibles, for the International Sunday School is now in session. Join me. Let's go. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sunday School lesson as taught by Pastor Rodney Jones, pastor of the New Nation Anointed Ministries, Church of God in Christ, 1700 West 87th Street, right here in the city of Chicago. Welcome to you new subscribers, and thank you for subscribing to this channel. For those of you who would like to be notified each week as we upload our Sunday School lessons, make sure you, if you can, click that thumbs up, click that subscribe button beside it, and then lastly, that bell symbol, which is a notification, and it will notify you each week through your email. Bing! Brother Jones just uploaded another International Sunday School lesson. You may want to view it. Today's topic is the value of wisdom. We're in Proverbs, the 2nd chapter, verses 1 through 11. Today's date is second Sunday, June 14th, 2020. We're continually praying for those who have been affected by everything that's going on in our country, including this injustice that has been going and wreaking and making havoc through our land. Our key words for this lesson is wisdom, which you'll find 4 times in this lesson based on 2 different meanings. Knowledge you'll find 4 times, but it's based on 2 different meanings. And then understanding, which is also in here some 4 times, but 2 different meanings. Now, there are times when wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is used interchangeably. And so I'll try to keep with when it changes in the lesson. Then there are keywords of action or verbs that the writer is informing the student or the son to perform in order for this wisdom to affect you, or in order for you to receive the benefits of wisdom. Receive my words, hide my commandments, incline thine ear, apply thy heart, cry after knowledge, lift up your voice for knowledge, and seek and search for her. In other words, it's just not going to fall in your lap. You've got to make a move or a stand if you want wisdom. You've got to cry out or call unto the Lord for it. And this lesson has some 3 ifs in it and then some 2 thens. Ifs and then thens. In other words, it's based on your action. How well or how bad do you want it? There's something that you have to put forth. There's an effort that you have to make to get it, and then you'll get the results. So the son of this lesson will receive the then, providing he does the if. We'll get right into our lesson. The 2nd chapter, verses 1 through 11. Verse 1 says, my son, if thou wilt receive my words and hide my commandments with thee. So Solomon, as a loving father, teaches his son the skill or the wisdom of life, because wisdom really is the skill. And there are times when the word wisdom means insight. Here he's referencing the skill, godly skill for living. Later we're going to find out it also means common sense. This skill or wisdom was given to Solomon from God as a gift. That's 1 Kings 3 through 15, which lets me know that wisdom comes from God. So in order for the son to benefit from this wisdom, he must do 2 things. Number 1, he must receive the words of his father or the instructor or the teacher And number two, he must hide his commandments. Now, he says, if thou receive and hide, if you will lay them up in your mind and in your heart, is what he's referencing to. Don't just receive them. And the word receive means to take, to get. It is a grasping or a seizing. But you're grasping or receiving or taking or getting it with a purpose of using it. Don't just receive wisdom and then don't use it and don't apply it. He says, when you receive it, then I need you to hide it. The word hide means to keep something in your heart, to store up, or even to treasure it up. Treasure this wisdom that I am giving you. And even, he says, and hide my commandments. And another word for commandments would be precept, law, or even instructions. Take these instructions and hide them or store them up in your heart. And the word heart is going to come back in this lesson. Verse number 2, so that thou incline thine ear unto wisdom and apply thine heart to understanding. Now, I'm going to be defining words and teaching based on the King James usage, but there are many other translations that does not say so that. One translation might say in order that. So it kind of causes a confusion as to which translation. So since we're teaching from the King James, we're going to use that. Now, if you go back King James, he's saying to receive it and to hide it in order that you can incline your ear. But other translation says or uses verse 2 also as a command or an instruction from the reader or from the writer or Solomon. So to me, it's either or. It says, but two words of action are mentioned in this verse: incline and apply. To incline means to listen carefully, to pay attention to, or even to give heed. In other words, you're going to pay closely attention to this and you're going to give heed to it so that you can obey the instructions that has been given. Then he says, after you incline your ear, that's the gate that you receive everything. He says, incline your ear or listen carefully. Then he says, apply thy heart. And the word apply means to stretch out or to spread out. You're applying that information that has just been given to you, because knowledge just kept up in you is not really much good. When you apply it, some other definition for wisdom can also means knowledge applied. So when you take this knowledge, this information, and put it to use, put it to good use, then it's called wisdom. So the son has been given 4 things in order to benefit from this wisdom so far. Number 1, receive the words of the teacher or the father. Number 2, hide or treasure up in your heart the commandment or the instructions that's given. Number 3, incline or pay attention to, incline your ear, cause your ear to listen in, skillful living. And number 4, apply or stretch out his heart, which is where he treasured the instructions. Remember, these instructions were treasured in his heart. And so he told him to stretch it out or apply thine heart to understanding. And remember, that's where he told him to hide it in his heart. So he says, incline your ear to wisdom. And wisdom here means skill, experience, or shrewdness. It is to cause your ear to focus in on and pay attention to wisdom is what he's saying. To take to heart wisdom or even how it works, or to apply to your life the wisdom that you have taken in. We've been teaching wisdom. This is our 2nd week. And it Bible speaks about a fool despises knowledge. He despises wisdom. And I need you to understand wisdom comes from God, and God is wisdom. On last week's lesson, I showed you that wisdom is the same age as God. And since God has no beginning and no ending, wisdom has no beginning and no ending. God created the earth. He used wisdom, and wisdom does not just come from God, but God is wisdom. Wisdom is an attribute of who God is. And then he says, apply your heart to understanding. The word understanding means insight. It is right perception of truth. In other words, apply your heart to have the right perception of truth. And everything we do it from our heart. The Amplified version, there are times when I read different versions. The Amplified version says, making your ear attentive to skillful and godly wisdom. Remember, wisdom comes from God. And inclining and directing your heart and mind to understanding, or applying all your powers to the quest for it. Verse 3 and verse 4. Yea, if thou criest after knowledge, and liftest up thy voice for understanding, if thou seekest her as silver, and searchest for her as for hid treasures. Now here is a point where the teacher is instructing the student, or a father is instructing his son, to give all you can with all you got, with your heart, your mind, your body, your soul, and your spirit, with your ears, your mouth, your eyes, your legs, your toes, your teeth, your tongue. In other words, he's saying to cry out after knowledge. So Solomon mentions 4 more actions of his son that he should do or take unto himself. Cry after knowledge, lift your voice for understanding, seek after knowledge, and search for her as for hid treasures. Look for her as you would look for some hidden treasures, or for some silver, for some gold. Search for her as you would go online to search for a job. Search for her as you would search for a husband, for a wife, for a boyfriend, for a girlfriend. Search for her as if you were in an emergency and you needed to find some answers. That's how you seek and search for it. Knowledge in this verse bears a different meaning than knowledge in verse 5. So in other words, to cry after something is to have a sincere desire for it. Solomon says to his son, if thou criest after knowledge. The word criest is a verb meaning to call, to declare, to summon, or invite. If you call to or call for, or if you invite knowledge, literally seek after and search for them. So this cry is an active, continual crying or calling from the heart for knowledge. It's as if you're literally crying out and begging for it. Knowledge here is a feminine noun meaning understanding or comprehension. It is discernment or right action. Remember, sometimes these words are used interchangeably. They're all parts of the word or the team or the family of wisdom. So Solomon encourages his son to invite, to call to or for understanding or discernment. And here the word understanding means insight. He says, lift up your voice for understanding, which is insight. Seek her, which is knowledge, as you will be seeking for silver. Search for her as you will search for hidden treasures. Then he said, lift up your voice for understanding. This is used in the active voice, lift this, which is a continual action on the individual. We should daily cry out for understanding. Wisdom is daily crying out for us in the streets to use her, and we should be crying after wisdom as well. Verse 5. So then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. Now, Solomon said the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. That's Proverbs 1 and 7, which was in our lesson last week. Seeking and valuing wisdom lead to a person's understanding or discerning the fear of the Lord and knowing God. So Solomon states, if his son or the reader does the ifs in this lesson, he will receive the then or the reward of the if. Solomon mentions 2 main benefits in this lesson if his son follows his instructions. Number 1, in this verse, he says, you will understand the fear of the Lord. And number 2, in verse 9, he says, you will gain an understanding of righteousness, justice, and equity. In other words, when you put the ifs together, you will come to a conclusion of the then. This is how you understand the fear of the Lord, and this is how you find the knowledge of God if you do the ifs that he stated above. Now he says to understand, which means to discern, to perceive, or even be intelligent. I read it in the New Living Translation. It says, then you will understand what it means to fear the Lord, and you will gain knowledge of him. When you apply the ifs, then you will understand when he said the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. He also said the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. We're going to come back to that. That would be Proverbs 9 and 10. If you put the ifs together, it says, then you will understand what it means to fear the Lord, and you will gain a knowledge. You will become acquainted with God. Verse 6, for the Lord giveth wisdom. Out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. When you find the Lord, you will find wisdom. Wisdom comes from the Lord. All caps, capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, which means the self-existent God. This is the great I am that I am. He has no beginning. He has no end. He has always been. There's no one greater. When he could not swear by any greater, he had to swear by himself, because there's no one greater than him. There's no one other than him. There's no one beside him. He is self-sufficient. He needs nothing. And if he needed anything, he would support his own need. But since he doesn't need anything, he has no need to support his own need. He is God and God Almighty. It says, for the Lord giveth wisdom. So the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. We said that in Proverbs 9 and 10. Point number 4, the Lord gives wisdom. You cannot buy it. You cannot stumble upon it. You have to search for wisdom from God. Wisdom has been sought, wisdom has to be sought. Search for, cry it after from the Lord for it. And out of the mouth of the Lord comes knowledge and understanding. Now, in this lesson, the word wisdom, or in this verse, it means skill, again, experience, or shrewdness. This knowledge that he's referring to is a discernment or insight. And then, of course, a notion. And then, of course, the word understanding here also means insight. So far, the words have not changed yet. Verse 7 and verse 8. He layeth up sound wisdom. This is what God does. He lays up sound wisdom for the righteous. He is a buckler to them that walk uprightly. He keepeth the paths of judgment and preserveth the ways, notice, of his saints, because the saints belong to him. Man has no ownership of another man, and that's why slavery never should have existed. Even I'm married to my wife, but I don't own her. God owns her. I just have papers on her. That's it. He is the Lord. He lays up. God lays up. He stores up sound wisdom for the righteous. And if you want to receive sound wisdom from the Lord that has already been laid up, you've got to become a righteous one. And he keep the paths of judgment, and he preserves the way of the saints. So Solomon teaches his son how to obtain wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Number 2, then he teaches him the benefits of following his instructions. And then number 3, now he teaches him about the God of wisdom, which is in these verses. So the Lord lays up sound wisdom for the righteous. This wisdom is the ability to be able to continue with great success. This is where that word wisdom shifts to another meaning. This wisdom is the ability that brings continued advancement. The New Living Translation says, he grants a treasure of common sense to the honest. And here's the thing. What we've been using as common sense is not common sense. Common sense never goes against God. I'll say this, and I'm going to continue to move forward. One of my issues with this social distancing, the masks and everything, is sometimes when we're operating with it in church, we're operating in fear. We're operating outside of faith in God. So we say, you better use common sense. What happens is we get to using common sense so much until common sense shifts to be the greater than faith in God. Faith says that I can be healed. Common sense says I don't trust faith, so I'm going to take some precautions matters. Understand what I'm saying, and I'm just going to move on. Maybe I will move on. He is a buckler or a shield to them that walk uprightly with, or the word is with integrity. Now, because God is your shield, that doesn't mean you're not going to feel hurt. You're not going to get broke. Your lights are not going to be turned off. You're not going to be pulled over. That does not mean that, but it does mean that he is a shield to those who walk uprightly, or those who walk up with integrity. He keepeth, which means to guard the paths of judgment. And then he preserves or watches or keeps guard the way of the saints, or the way of his saints. Verse 9 says, then, that's the other then, this is the last then, thou shalt understand righteousness and judgment and equity, yea, every good path. It's only then, and then only, when you have an understanding of righteousness, or the right way of living, or judgment, which could also mean justice, equity, doing those things that are right. So this is the final then in the lesson, after the son performs the ifs of the lesson. In order for us to gain a godly result, we must put forth a godly principle. If the Bible says, if thy brother offend you, and if he says go to him and him alone, you can't call the pastor. You can't put it on Facebook. You cannot tweet about it. You can't call your brother, your boyfriend, your homie, your pastor, your church, or nothing. There is a principle. He says, go to him alone. If he will not hear you, then take a witness. If he does not hear him, he still didn't say take him before the pastor. He said take him before the church. That's the ecclesia. That is the body. It don't mean the babies. It don't mean the cheering. It means the body. And then let the body judge this whole matter. What happens is, right off the bat, we call the pastor. Right off the bat, we go to somebody else. And then your order is wrong or interrupted. And your end results is more damaging than the actual offense. So he says, then will you understand what is right, what is just, and what is fair. And you will find the right way to go. Verse 10 and verses 11. When wisdom entereth into thine heart, and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul, discretion shall preserve thee, and understanding shall keep thee. So every believer should love wisdom, because wisdom comes from God. Number 2, every believer should daily practice and exercise wisdom. Do not step out of the guidelines and the boundaries of practicing wisdom in your everyday life. I know you want to give them a piece of your mind. I know. The other day, brief testimony, I was at Menards, and one of the senior white staffs, or persons who employees of Menards, approached me and said that she is not able to get money out of her ATM machine. And I says, why? She says, because of this rioting and looting that's taking place. She says, I can't, they won't allow me to do it. And I said, oh, wow, this is where we are in this day and time. Her response was, yes, if it hadn't been for y'all starting this. Now, her reference to y'all, to me, I'm thinking she's talking about Sunday school teacher, y'all bass players, y'all guitar players, y'all preachers, or y'all clergymen, y'all children of God, y'all husband. Because clearly she was not saying you all African Americans or you blacks. Clearly, this white woman was not addressing the y'all factor right in the middle of a race war. What did I do? Since we're in the book of Proverbs and we're dealing with wisdom, wisdom says, walk away. There's no sense in me inciting a riot. There's no sense in me giving her a piece of my mind, shaking my finger in her face. Unimportant. There was no sense in me talking to her boss to get her fired. There was no sense in bringing up Martin Luther King. There was no sense in bringing up the fact that it was not me that put my knee in that man's neck to cause him to die, which started this whole matter. Another brother approached me and said, did I just ear hustle? Did she just say y'all? I said, she sure did. But I exercised wisdom. I left it alone. Some battles you're just not going to win. I am not prejudiced. She possibly is. Oh, well, she has to deal with it. Wisdom says, say nothing and walk away. That's exactly what I did. So wisdom applied brings the greatest results in and all matters of life. So to depart from wisdom is foolish. So when we operate with wisdom, it brings joy to our souls and protection from the Lord. Wisdom here is skillful or godly wisdom. When it enters into your heart, is what he's saying. Knowledge is insight. It is pleasant to your soul. Knowledge should be joyous. Knowledge is a thing of beauty. Knowledge is awesome. To even gain knowledge or even insight or understanding. Discretion, he says here, it is a plan. Another term for discretion would be wise choices. Wise choices. Your wise choices is what's going to preserve you. It's what's going to keep you. It's what's going to watch over you. It's what's going to protect you. The proper decisions that we make in life, it's what's going to keep us clear. Now, I read it in the New Living Translation. For wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will fill you with joy. Wise choices will watch over you, and understanding will keep you safe. This is another powerful and beautiful lesson. Continue to pray for me. Hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, and leave me some comments below. So let's talk about this wisdom. And did I make a wise choice by walking away from the woman who appears to think that we started this whole thing? And I need you all to know that there are people called incession people. I'm making up that word. Those are people who came to our neighborhoods and incited, that's the word, incited people to begin to riot, and then they left and went back home. We found that out, that they were not a part of us. Even the people who was crying, crucify him, to Jesus, the Bible said that there was a people who came in and they incited the crowd. Never. The lesson last week says, son, if sinners entice you, do not do it. Go the opposite direction. Continue to pray for me. As I said in the Union Gospel lesson, each time I study these lessons, it takes me anywhere from 6 to 8 hours per lesson to study. As I teach them, it takes 4 hours to teach, to edit, to produce, and to upload. So that's a whole lot in one lesson, and I'm teaching each lesson. I see you all Sunday live at 10 o'clock. Remember my motto: teaching the word of God in the spirit of excellence. And the model of the Sunday school: a child saved is a soul saved plus a life. Amen.